Hello once again. Now this video is going to be slightly different because this spin-off focuses on Ren's sister, Jun. And I don't expect everyone to know exactly who Jun is because, well, she didn't really have that big of a role to play, except in the very beginning. So I'll quickly summarize who Jun is so that you guys know. Basically, Jun was in kind of the same pickle that Ren was. You see, she controls zhongxi, or zombies. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is all gonna be a bunch of Chinese words, and that language is hard. But basically, you put a little talisman on a dead person's head, and they're under your control. And that's what a zhongxi is. And Jun thought, oh, they don't have emotions. I don't care if they have emotions. I just wanna, control them because my family is the greatest and we're so great, blah, blah, blah. But then Yo tells her, hey, actually they do. And you separated this one person, this very famous martial artist, Pairon, from his family, and that's kind of messed up. And so, after realizing, oh wow, I'm a bad person, she and Pairon managed to just kind of work things out. And over all these years, they're kind of best buds. He learns to forgive her because he knew that she's also being manipulated by their uncle, but that was during the main series. Now everything's okay, the family's happy, things are different now, and this manga takes place after the Shaman fight of the main series, and just before the events of Shaman King Flowers, with the whole Flower of Maze thing. And if you haven't seen my video on Shaman King Flowers, you actually probably should, but if you haven't, I'll summarize what you should know for the sake of this video. The story actually begins with Horohoro. His family has been struggling and he came to China to ask Ren for money. After the Shaman fight, Ren's family developed a massive company and Ren is the current CEO. Jun also works under the same company. The issue is that his company has been controversial since their business strategy is so aggressive and they've been buying other companies to create a mega corporate conglomerate. And now this rival group called the Red Crimson seeks to kill Ren and take down his company. They use the same zhongxi abilities just as the Tao family does. Only they claim that their methods not only controls their mind, but also their soul, making it to where there's zero chance of their zhongxi to ever retaliate against them. As expected, Horohoro gets jumped by a member of the Red Crimson because they recognize him from the Shaman fight, and Jun, along with master martial artist Li Pairon, comes to save him. Here's the thing. Jun has become a cold-blooded killer working in the name of their family's company. And Horohoro gets a little upset since her brother Ren swore off killing when he made his oath to abandon the family's line of hatred. Not only that, Horohoro knows that Jun ordered her subordinates to kill other members of the Red Crimson. She's become somewhat of a different person altogether. After saving Horohoro, they spot this one girl who was spying on them. And Jun immediately takes action by grabbing an RPG, but not even that was enough because this girl is powerful enough to survive an RPG blast, as well as use her oversoul to take down their helicopter. So here's the beef between the Tao family and Red Crimson. You see, a long time ago, like 2,000-ish years ago, the Tao family was a very well-respected family. Their family was trusted advisors and held a lot of power in China. But over the time, the Tao family were made into enemies, and they were pushed away from society, specifically by the Red Crimson. The Red Crimson incited an insurrection to destroy the Tao family and whatever power they held. And there's been a war between these two families ever since then. But now, Ren has become public with his new company and has been showing how powerful the Tao family currently is. So the Red Crimson plan to finish what they started. And this girl, named Hon, seems to really hate the Tao family the most. Her tenacity manages to keep her alive because she's obsessed with ending the Tao family. And when it seems that they were struggling against her, the previous head of the Tao family shows up to stop them. Before making her escape, Hon tells her that if it hadn't been for the Tao family, that her family could have been happy. In the eyes of the Red Crimson, the Tao family were oppressive, and the insurrection from 2,000 years ago was really a fight for their freedom. Later, Hon wakes up in her home, having managed to escape. And in her home is Kamogawa and Yavis. These two are working to place Yavis, the Bill Cipher-looking character, in the seat of the Shaman King. by overthrowing Hao. They're explored more in Shaman King Flowers, but for now, all you need to know is that they're the bad guys with godlike powers. You also see a flashback of when they ambushed Jeanne, the Iron Maiden. You find out in Shaman King Flowers that the little girl holding the gun is the one who killed Jeanne. And Jeanne even went so far as to try and talk sense into the little girl, telling her that the Tao family had changed, and that killing was wrong. Even going so far as to prove her point by saying that she wouldn't fight back, having faith that she would make the right choice. Keep in mind, the Tao family, or at least Ren, and by proxy, his wife, Jeanne, has sworn off killing, which is why she's choosing not to fight back. And doing the unthinkable, just to show how committed she is to her new way of life, she summons her spirit ally, Shamash, and asks him to execute her for killing so many people in her past. But because Kamogawa is a sadistic freak, he uses Yavis's power to stop time for 30 seconds. And he puts the gun to Jeanne's head with the trigger pulled. That way the bullet will kill Jeanne before Shamash's axe. And it's all just so that this girl can properly become a killer to better serve Yavis. This is what I like about this flashback. In Shaman King Flowers, they don't really do a good job building up Kamogawa or the little girl. In this flashback, you really get a sense of what kind of people they are. Kamogawa is a disgusting, manipulative twat, while the little girl is new to serving powers greater than herself, and is still uncomfortable with the idea of breaking down her humanity to serve Yavis. But jumping back to the main story, Jun, while repairing Paidon, has actually been struggling with herself lately. She reflects on everything her family has done and just how cruel their methods had become up until recently. More importantly, she finds it hard to forgive herself for taking away the possible life Paidon could have had if her family hadn't killed him and made him into a Zhongxi. And it's due to this guilt that she works day and night to repair Paidon's body whenever it takes critical damage for her. And now horrified of the thought of Red Crimson taking out her brother Ren, or Ren's son, Men, she heads out to finish fighting Red Crimson and find their headquarters. Horohoro, now having a lot of trouble coming to terms with the current war between the two families and what kind of person Jun has become, decides to stop thinking about it and just do what feels right. So he joins her to hunt down Red Crimson. Regardless that Jun isn't really in a good state of mind to be taking them on. But also, Horohoro joins so that he can stop Jun before she overexerts herself, or takes things too far in her obsession to defend the Tao family. Their current plan is to go to the Ten family, who are a mafia group who work in association with Red Crimson. They know they're hosting a private party at the top of that skyscraper, and they plan to crash it. However, their plan takes an unexpected turn when a Zhongxi from the Red Crimson actually pulls up with a limo and invites Jun to ride with him. And only Jun. Well, Paidon comes too, because they can't really say no to him. And they meet the mafia boss of the Ten family. And being the crooked man he is, he says that what he really wants in exchange for information is the knowledge of how Jun created Paidon. He wants to know how to make an independent Zhongxi that doesn't require a talisman. And he's willing to take Paidon to learn what he wants. So, negotiations fail, and they end up having to bust their way out. The mafia boss tries to manipulate Paidon, telling him that the Tao family took away his chance at a happy life, and that if Paidon joins them, that he could have that life given back to him, where he could be with his family and friends once again. But it doesn't persuade him, because Paidon chose to work with Jun. Everything he's doing is of his own free will, and he tells Jun that even if he forgives her, Jun isn't willing to forgive herself, and that alone will be enough weakness to lead to their demise. And it's because she still feels guilt for taking away Paidon's life. That itself is enough evidence for him to know that Jun's heart is still righteous. It's clear that this whole tangent was really just to give Jun a spotlight and to explore the relationship between her and Paidon. and it showcases the loyalty that Paidon has for Jun and how their relationship has changed over the course of all these years. And I don't think the tangent with the mafia boss has any real relevance to the story, other than to develop Jun's character. Which, if that is the case, I'm very okay with it because, well, that's mostly the point of these stories. The characters. I believe the tangent is justified. But now it takes things in a whole new direction. Horohoro and the others, after being left behind while Jun talks to the mafia boss, meet this other member of Red Crimson, who has this weird little robot that kind of looks like Ultimo, but that's probably just a coincidence, and not them trying to do a crossover between manga. And oh look, another person with a robot that happens to look like a character from Ultimo, but I'm sure that's just another coincidence. And they all basically just brag about how much older the Red Crimson family is than the Tao family, and that Red Crimson controls the spirits of the cardinal directions. You know how in Chinese myth there's actually a guardian of the north, west, south, and east? That's apparently all those little robot guys that they have. And they talk about how there's just no way the Tao family can take them on. So, Ren shows up out of absolutely nowhere to help them out. So they just dip out of there. They go, nah, I'll wait for the Flower of Maize thing and the Shaman King flowers. Once Yavis wins, the Tao clan can just be able to wish for whatever the Red Crimson wants. And they're gonna wish for the Tao family to just not exist anymore. Then we focus on that one girl from the Red Crimson, Honhon. The reason she's so obsessed with defeating the Tao family is because of what they did to her mother, who is currently in a coma and has been in that state for years. During Ren's business pursuits, he went to one of the shadow organizations that the Red Crimson was working with. His goal was to suppress them, to make them stop whatever illegal business they were doing. During the fight, there was an accident with her mom and her head got hit really hard, leaving her in a coma. So, she manages to catch up with Jun. Jun plans to fight in order to end her, since Honhon is becoming a problem. But Jun has a secret weapon that she's been too afraid to use until now. She gives Paidon a talisman that will channel all of her mana to Paidon, so that he can be exceedingly strong, using 100% of his ability. However, once he reaches his limit, he'll be destroyed. And so the two of them fight. One who has worked through her personal barriers and has reached a new level of power because of it, and the other absorbed in her obsession, that it pushes her to exceed her own limitations. And Horohoro decides to find Honhon's brother and extort information from him about their mother, determined to help Honhon heal and move past her rage. But more importantly, he accuses Honhon's brother of lying, saying that there's no way Ren would go out of his way to hurt someone who couldn't defend themselves. He knows Ren, and that isn't the kind of person Ren is. Horohoro thinks this guy is lying to push the war between their families, and suddenly, Horohoro's childhood friend Domko appears. And Horohoro basically has a mental breakdown. He knows that there's no way she could be there since she could only take human form once and that already happened. And everything she talks about, how Horohoro ignored her before she died, and how that was basically the same as dying itself, are all things that Horohoro tells himself. Horohoro knows this is some sort of illusion. And in order to break through it, he learns to forgive a small part of himself. He promises Domko to be better, and that he'll work every day to become the man that will have her smiling once they meet again. And with that, his illusion breaks, and it confirms Horohoro's theory. Honhon's brother manipulates people's emotions in order to control them. And this man has been doing it to Honhon for years, which is why she's become so obsessed with killing the Tao family. And before Horohoro has a chance to beat the crap out of the guy, he vanishes, saying that he'll do whatever it takes to have his mother wake up in a world where there isn't a war against them and the Tao family. And that he'll get what he wants once he helps Yavis win the Flower of Maize and usurp Hao to become God. Back to Jun and Honhon. Both of them are reaching a stalemate. Honhon is running out of power to fight, while Paidon has expended himself, and that he's falling apart in Jun's arms. And Paidon's body disappears, dying a second time in his life, only now in the arms of the one he vowed to protect, and in the arms of the one who'd grown because of his loyalty to her. And she watches as Paidon becomes a spirit, having pushed through her guilt and reaching a connection with Paidon that she never would have been able to achieve if it wasn't for him loving her as much as she loved him. And now, Jun has to fight tooth and nail in order to keep Hon from hurting her family, and the two of them decide to do something that they hadn't done before. Both of their spirits, now in flame mode, they use their spirit integration to merge themselves together. And now Paidon can help Jun finish the fight as one. And with the skill and talent of a martial arts master and an ancient warrior, their battle begins to destroy them, breaking bones and internal organs tearing from blunt force trauma. Their spirits suffer inside their shamans as they're forced to watch as they slowly destroy themselves. But due to their devotion to their shamans, they refuse to make them stop. And knowing that Hon fights, not due to her anger for the Tao family, but rather for the love of her mother, Jun wants to help Hon, but can't do so on her own. And in a massive attack where they both unleash all the mana they had left, they manage to kill each other. And from the afterlife, they hear the voices of their spirit allies calling to them, and they know that they have a chance to return to their bodies. And with their family around them, they see just what the war has done between the Tao family and the Red Crimson. How their devotion to their family has led them to such an intense suffering, tearing themselves apart, both inside and out. And back at the family of the Red Crimson, they agree their fight may end up having them all killed with no real winner, and they agree to a ceasefire until the Flower of Maize. And Hon's brother sits at her bedside, and he apologizes. He admits that he used his ability to control people's emotions and that he not only controlled Hon in order to stoke her anger, but also, he lied about Ren attacking their mother. It was actually him that submerged their mother's senses to keep her in hibernation. And he did it just because he wanted to make Hon stronger. Because he needs her to win the Flower of Maize and lead the Red Crimson family. Ren, on the other hand, has a heart-to-heart with his son. Ren decides to send his son to Japan so he can compete in the Flower of Maize. And once they win, they'll wish to bring Jeanne's soul back. I think Red Crimson is one of the strongest spin-offs in the series. The exploration of Ren and Jun and seeing how their actions from their past are affecting them in the present has always been a really strong point of Shaman King. Seeing how they work past their problems and grow as characters is really what I like most about these stories. And in Red Crimson, this was delivered really well. As well as being a solid prequel to the Flower of Maize fight that they've been building up for a little bit. Now, this is actually not written by Hiroyuki Takei. This was written by Jet Kusumura. On the cover, it says that the original creator is Hiroyuki Takei and that Jet Kusumura did the artwork, which is a little confusing because it makes it sound like Jet only did the art, but in other sources, it says that he also wrote it. So it is strongly possible that Jet Kusumura was actually making all of Red Crimson with specific guidance from Hiroyuki Takei, because during the same time this was being released, Superstar was also being released that same year. However, since there is several different sources that say a few different things, if I end up being wrong on that, honestly, I'm not even going to be upset with myself. It got a little confusing trying to research it. And honestly, it's not really the biggest deal. The story was still good, and it still works in line with the main continuity of the Flower of Maize. And having a side story to focus on unexplored characters makes the world feel like it's much more vast and real. It makes it feel like every character has a complicated history. Jun's character and the depth of her personal struggle really made this spin-off shine. They did such a good job with Jun's character in this manga that she's now a contestant for one of my favorite characters in Shaman King. But that's everything I have for this video. Don't forget that the meat of this story is fleshed out in Shaman King Flowers and eventually in Shaman King Superstar, which I made a video on Shaman King Flowers and I will be making a video on Shaman King Superstar once it's entirely finished. Tell me what you thought about Shaman King Red Crimson. I have a Patreon if you want to get holographic stickers or trading cards, and you can follow me on Twitter if you want me to brighten up your timeline. I hope you enjoyed this video, stay beautiful, and keep playing.